Will the House please come to order? Mr. Clerk.
Aloha and good morning. Today's invocation will be delivered by the Very Reverend Gary Secor, Vicar General of the Diocese of Honolulu. Will the members who wish to participate please rise?
Aloha. Let us bow our heads in prayer. In the Hebrew Scriptures, the prophet Samuel said, "Speak, Lord, your servant is listening." Let us pause for a moment of silence, asking God to speak in our hearts. Loving God, as your servants begin this legislative year, we ask that you bless us with listening hearts. In the midst of many voices and needs calling for our attention, may we listen with our hearts and consciences to those you have called us to serve. May we listen to those who have gone before us, who have reminded us that the life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. Most especially, may we listen to you, God, who speak to us in many ways and challenge us to hear you calling us to listen to one another and to you. May our decisions and deeds speak clearly your justice, peace, life, and love. Give these men and women, and all of us, your wisdom, born from a listening heart. Amen.
All right, thank you very much, Reverend Secor, for the very nice invocation. Clerk, will you call a roll, please?
Mr. Aquino. Here. Ms. Awana. Present. Ms. Bellotti.
Present.
Mr. Brower. Here. Ms. Cavanilla. Present. Mr. Cachola. Ms. Carroll. Here. Mr. Choi. Here. Mr. Cregan. Here. Mr. Cullen. Present. Ms. Evans.
Here.
Mr. Fale. Ms. Fukumoto. Ms. Hanohano. Ms. Har.
Thank you.
Mr. Hashem. Ms. Ichiyama. Mr. Ng. Mr. Ito.
Thank you.
Mr. Johansson. Ms. Jordan. Mr. Kawakami. Mr. Kobayashi. Mr. Lee. Ms. Lowen. Ms. Luke. Ms. Matsumoto. Mr. McDermott. Mr. McKelvey. Mr. Mizuno. Ms. Morikawa. Mr. Nakashima. Mr. Nishimoto. Mr. Ono. Mr. Onishi. Mr. Oshiro. Mr. Rhodes. Mr. Saiki. Mr. Sei. Mr. Takai. Mr. Takayama. Mr. Takumi. Ms. Thielen. Mr. Tokioka. Mr. Tsuji. Mr. Ward. Mr. Woodson. Ms. Woolley. Mr. Yamane. Mr. Yamashita. Mr. Speaker.
Here.
Mr. Speaker, 49 members are present, 2 are excused.
All right, thank you very much, Clerk. Members, at this time, the Chair would like to introduce certain special visitors in today for the session. And sitting behind me is Governor Neil Abercrombie. Neil Abercrombie.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe.
Representative Luke, will you please present? She's already did. And we also have with us Chief Justice Mark Rechtenwald. Rechtenwald, please. And members, I can direct you to the gallery if we have Mayor Bernard Carvalho and his staff up there. Is Representative Morikawa there? Former representative, not present. And it's a great pleasure to also to recognize our mayor from the city and county of Honolulu. Is also here as a former representative, Mayor Kirk Caldwell. And it also gives me a great pleasure to introduce an old friend, and I worked with him very closely in the past years, the former Governor Wahe. Is there Consul General Julius G. Torres present, and Carlito Marnan, Consul General. And we have some distinguished visitors from Japan, from our sister state, Fukuoka. Can have Representative Kobayashi to please make the introduction, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Fukuoka Prefecture became Hawaii's first sister state in 1981, and since then, members of the Fukuoka Prefectural Assembly have attended 28 openings of the Hawaii State Legislature. Fukuoka Prefecture is the largest prefecture in Western Japan. Fukuoka City is the largest city in Western Japan. And most of our Japanese immigrants to Hawaii came from Western Japan. I'd like to thank the members of the Fukuoka Legislature for attending our opening day again. It is my privilege to introduce our distinguished visitors from our sister legislative body, the Fukuoka Prefectural Assembly. First, Assembly Member Muto Eiji. Assembly Member Itahashi Satoshi. Assembly Member Urata Kenichi. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right, thank you very much, Representative. Mr. Clerk, are there any messages from the Governor?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we are in receipt of Governor's Message number 501, dated January 9th, 2014, appointing Richard Cregan as the representative from House District number 5, Na'alehu, Ocean View, Captain Cook, Kealakekua, Kailua Kona. May this message be received for immediate action.
So ordered, Clerk. Mr. Kuroda, will you please escort Mr. and Mrs. Cregan to the Speaker's rostrum for Mr. Cregan's oath of office, please. Okay. Chief Justice, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the honor of inviting me to be here this morning. Will you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Richard Cregan,
I, Richard Cregan,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Hawaii,
and the Constitution of the State of Hawaii,
and that I will faithfully discharge my duties
and that I will faithfully discharge my duties
as a member of the House of Representatives of the State of Hawaii
as a member of the House of Representatives of the State of Hawaii
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Representative Cregan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right, members, again, we're pleased to give a warm welcome to our new representative, Representative Cregan. Well, dear Representative Evans, have you provided a lay to Representative Cregan, please? Representative Cregan, please stand to receive the lay. And Representative Suji for Mrs. Cregan. Okay, thank you very much. You may be seated. Thank you. We're a little bit out of script. Thank you, Governor and Chief Justice Reckenwald. As you all know, Hawaii celebrates its 55th anniversary as a state this year. Since statehood, we have gone from a sleepy territorial outpost to a vibrant Pacific hub, unique among all the 50 states. But Hawaii has been fortunate to have many citizens who have answered the call to serve and taken the challenges of elected office. These individuals understood, above everything else, the nature of our roots and our uniqueness. They had a keen sense of understanding of where Hawaii had come from and the vision and commitment to lead us into the future, firmly anchored by the spirit of aloha. We owe a lot to these men and women who have dedicated their careers and lives to ensuring our collective future. To them, I say, mahalo nui loa, for all that you have given and for all that you have done. At this time, I would like to recognize these special individuals, all former members of the House of Representatives. Mr. Clerk, please begin the announcement of the honorees.
William Baines Jordan, from 1959 to 1962, represented areas including Aiea, Pearl City, Ewa, and Waianae. Thomas Lalakea, from 1965 to 1966, represented areas including Ainahaina, Niu Valley, and Cocoa Head.
George Noguchi, from 1967 to 1968, represented areas including Manoa and Waikiki, and chaired the Committee on Hawaiian Homes. Stanley Rarig, from 1969 to 1976, represented areas including South Hilo and chaired the Committees on Agriculture and Judiciary. Oliver Lunasco, from 1971 to 1980, represented areas including Wailua, Haleiwa, Wahiawa, and the North Shore, and chaired the Committees on Public Institutions, Labor and Employment, and Education. Carl Takamura, from 1975 to 1978, represented areas including Macaulay, Mo'ili'ili, and Makiki, and chaired the Committee on Youth and Elderly Affairs. Herbert Sagawa, from 1975 to 1984, represented areas including South Hilo, Puna, and Ka'u, and chaired the Committee on Health. Mr. Sagawa also served as Majority Floor Leader. Terrence Tom, from 1983 to 1998, represented areas including Kahalu, Ahuimanu, He'ia, and Kaneohe, and chaired the Committees on Intergovernmental Relations and International Affairs, Human Services, and Judiciary. Kathleen Stanley, from 1975 to 1984, represented areas including Hawaii Kai, Kuli'o'o, Niu Valley, and Aina, chaired the Committees on Public Assistance and Human Services, Public Employment and Governmental Operations, and Judiciary. Ms. Stanley also served as Majority Floor Leader. Meyer Ueoka, from 1977 to 1978, represented areas including Molokai, Lanai, Lahaina, and Wailuku. Gerald DeHare, from 1979 to 1982, represented areas including Makiki, Tantalus, and Manoa, and chaired the Committee on State General Planning. Anthony Takitani, from 1979 to 1982, represented areas including Molokai, Lanai, Lahaina, and Wailuku, and chaired the Committee on Public Employment and Governmental Operations. Barbara Maramoto, from 1979 to 2012, represented areas including Waialaiki, Kahala, Maunalani Heights, and Diamond Head. Ms. Maramoto also served as Minority Leader. Gil Silva, in 1980, represented areas including Puna, Ka'u, and South Hilo. Virginia Isbell, from 1981 to 1996, represented areas including South Kona and Ka'u, and chaired the Committee on Housing. Marvin Dang, from 1983 to 1984, represented areas including Kaneohe Marine Corps Air Station and Kailua. Alfred Lardizabal, from 1983 to 1986, represented areas including Kapa'a, Wailua, Lihui, and Nawiliwili. Bertha Kawakami, from 1987 to 2006, represented areas including Poipu, Koloa, Hanapepe, and Waimea. James Shawn, from 1985 to 1996, represented areas including Makiki and Tantalus, and chaired the committees on health and energy and environmental protection. Paul Oshiro, from 1985 to 1999, represented areas including Eva Beach, Iroquois Point, and Waipahu, and chaired the committees on transportation and judiciary and Hawaiian affairs. Mr. Oshiro also served as vice speaker. Jake Manegdeg, in 1986, represented areas including Salt Lake, Aliamanu, and Moanalua. Reb Bellinger, from 1987 to 1992, represented areas including Laie and Haula, and chaired the Committee on Planning and Economic Development. Dennis Arakaki, from 1987 to 2006, represented areas including Kamehameha Heights and Kalihi Valley, and chaired the Committees on Human Services, Hawaiian Affairs and Housing, and Health. Mr. Arakaki also served as Majority Floor Leader. Kenneth Hiraki, from 1987 to 2006, represented areas including Kaka'ako and Downtown, and chaired the Committees on Energy and Environmental Protection, Ocean Recreation and Marine Resources, Transportation, and Consumer Protection and Commerce. Ezra Kanoho, from 1987 to 2006, represented areas including Kapa'a, Wailua, Lihui, Nawiliwili, and Kaloa, and chaired the Committees on Legislative Management, Water and Land Use, and Ocean Resources, and Hawaiian Affairs. Ed Bybee, from 1989 to 1990, represented areas including Kaneohe Marine Corps Air Station and Kailua. Jerry Chang, from 1989 to 2012, represented areas including South Hilo, and chaired the Committees on Tourism and Culture and Higher Education. Edward Thompson, in 1992, represented areas including Palama, Kamehameha Heights, and Kalihi. Tony Navarez, from 1997 to 1982, represented areas including Kalihi and Kamehameha Heights. Robert Herkes, from 1993 to 2000 and 2003 to 2012, represented areas including Ka'u, Puna, and Kona, and chaired the committees on economic development and business concerns and consumer protection and commerce. Jackie Young, from 1991 to 1994, represented areas including Waimanalu, Keola Hills, and Lanikai. Ms. Young also served as Vice Speaker. David Morihara, from 1991 to 2000, represented areas including Pu'unene, Paia, Makawao, and Pukalani, and chaired the committees on agriculture and higher education. Ululani Birni, from 1993 to 1994, represented areas including Laie, Hauula, Punalu, Waikane, and Waiahole. Devin Nakoba, from 1993 to 1996, represented areas including Manuwili, Pohakupu, and Enchanted Lake. Michael White, from 1994 to 1998, represented areas including Molokai, Lanai, Lahaina, and Ka'anapali. Nestor Garcia, from 1995 to 2002, represented areas including Waipahu and Crestview, and chaired the Committee on Public Safety and Military Affairs. David Tarnas, from 1995 to 1998, represented areas including South Kohala and North Kona, and chaired the Committee on Ocean Recreation and Marine Resources. Brian Yamane, from 1995 to 2000, represented areas including Diamond Head, Kaimuki, and Kapahulu. Ed Case, from 1995 to 2002, represented areas including Manoa and chaired the Committee on Hawaiian Affairs. Mr. Case also served as Majority Leader. Alexander Santiago, from 1991 to 2000, represented areas including Waialua, Haleiwa, Waimea, and Kahuku, and chaired the Committees on Ocean Recreation and Marine Resources and Health. Terry Nui Yoshinaga, from 1995 to 2002, represented areas including Macaulay, Mo'iliili, and Paua, and chaired the Committees on Energy and Environmental Protection and Labor and Public Employment. Lei Ahu Isa, from 1997 to 2002, represented areas including Pu'unui, Aleva Heights, and Nu'uanu, and chaired the Committee on Economic Development and Business Concerns. David Pendleton, from 1997 to 2004, represented areas including Manuwili, Pohakupu, Olomana, and Enchanted Lake. Mr. Pendleton served as Minority Floor Leader. Mark Moses, from 1997 to 2006, represented areas including Kunia, Makakilo, and Kapolei. Marilyn Lee, from 1997 to 2012, represented areas including Waipio, Mililani, and Mililani Mauka. Ms. Lee served as Majority Floor Leader. Hermina Morita, from 1997 to 2011, represented areas including Haiku, Ulumalu, Wailua, Hana, Hanalei, Anahola, and Kapa'a, and chaired the Committee on Energy and Environmental Protection. Emily Awai, from 1999 to 2002, represented areas including Makaha and Waianae. Benjamin Cabreros, from 2000 to 2002, represented areas including Kalihi Kai and Iwilei. Ron Davis, from 2001 to 2002, represented areas including Molokai, Lanai, Lahaina, and Ka'anapali. Kika Bukowski, from 2001 to 2004, represented areas including Pukalani, Makawao, and Olinda. John Waihee, from 1981 to 1982, represented areas of Kalihi, Palama, Salt Lake, and Aliamani. Guy Ontai, from 2001 to 2004, represented areas including Wheeler Army Airfield and Mililani. Michael Magawai, from 2001 to 2010, represented areas including Laie, Wailua, Haleiwa, and Kahuku, and chaired the Committee on Legislative Management. Mr. Magawai also served as Vice Speaker. Kirk Caldwell, from 2003 to 2008, represented areas including Manoa and chaired the Committee on Labor and Public Employment. Mr. Caldwell also served as Majority Leader. Thomas Waters, from 2003 to 2008, represented areas including Lanikai and Waimanalo, and chaired the Committees on Higher Education and Judiciary. Lynn Finnegan, from 2003 to 2010, represented areas including Lower Pearl Ridge, Aiea, and Halava. Ms. Finnegan served as Minority Leader. John Ricky Karamatsu, from 2003 to 2010, represented areas including Waipahu, Village Park, and Waikele, and chaired the Committee on Judiciary. Mr. Karamatsu also served as Vice Speaker. Corinne Ching, from 2003 to 2012, represented areas including Nu'uanu, Pu'unui, Liliha, and Aleva Heights. Lila Berg, from 2005 to 2010, represented areas including Ainahaina, Niu Valley, Hawaii Loa, and Kuli'o'o. Kimberly Pine, from 2005 to 2012, represented areas including Eva Beach, Iroquois Point, and Pu'uloa. Ms. Pine served as minority floor leader. Gil Revere, from 2011 to 2012, represented areas including Laie, Wailua, Haleiwa, and Kahuku. Heather Juni, in 2012, represented areas including Aiea, Halava Valley, Halava Heights, and Red Hill. Colleen Meyer, from 1995 to 2008, represented areas including Laie, Hauula, Punalu, and Kahalu. Ms. Meyer served as minority floor leader. Anel Amaral, from 1989 to 1996, represented areas including Kunia and Makakilo. Ms. Amaral served as majority floor leader.
All right, members of the House, would you please applaud the honorees, their family members, friends, and colleagues who have joined us in the chamber today. All right, thank you very much for your service this past year. All right, we're going to item number 4, introduction of bills. Members, we're back to the order of the day. Representative Bills, Representative Cabanilla.
Mr. Speaker, I move that all bills laying on the clerk's desk pass first reading by title and be referred to print.
Thank you very much. And Representative Fukumoto.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The motion is carried. Item number 5, introduction of resolutions. Clerk. Mr. Clerk, are there any resolutions for action?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. House Resolution Number 1, electing the Assistant Clerk of the House of Representatives of the 27th Legislature. Be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the 27th Legislature of the State of Hawaii, regular session of 2014, that Rupert Juarez be elected as the Assistant Clerk of the House of Representatives of the 27th Legislature of the State of Hawaii and shall no longer be the acting Assistant Clerk. This resolution is offered by Representatives Saiki and Johansson.
Thank you very much, Representative Saiki.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of House Resolution Number 1.
Thank you. And Representative Johansson.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this item? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say no. House Resolution Number 1 is adopted. Mr. Juarez, will you please approach the rostrum for the oath of office? We can be right there. Come up here. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Hawaii as an officer of the House of Representatives of the State of Hawaii. to my best of my ability. Thank you very much, members and ladies and gentlemen in the gallery. I provide to you the Assistant Chief Clerk, Rupert Ruiz. All right, Mr. Clerk, what is the next resolution for action?
House Resolution Number 2, relating to committee assignments of the House of Representatives of the 27th Legislature. This resolution is offered by Representatives Psyche and Johansson.
All right, thank you very much, Representative Psyche.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of House Resolution Number 2.
Okay, thank you very much, Representative Johansson.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
All right, members, any discussion? If not...
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Representative.
McDermott over here. Speaker.
Yes, Representative McDermott.
I'd like to make a motion that we postpone this for a day so I can examine the proportionality of committee assignments. I'm not certain by looking at if there's equity for the minority in all these assignments. I just don't know. Thank you.
Okay. Is
Mr. Speaker?
Is there a second?
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Representative.
Short recess?
Mr. Tokooka, second the motion.
No, I asked for a short recess, Mr. Speaker.
Recess.
The Honorable Mike McCartney. Senator McCartney was a member of the Senate from 1989 to 1998. During his tenure, he served as the Assistant Majority Policy Leader, Assistant Majority Leader, Vice President, and Co-Majority Leader. He also served as Chair of the Government Operations, Education, and Labor and Employment Committees, and as co-chair of the Health and Environment Committee.
Madam President.
Senator Hara.
When war broke out in the Persian Gulf in 1991, the legislature canceled its opening day festivities, and leaders gave impassioned speeches about peace and progress. Hurricane Iniki plummeted Kauai, causing nearly $3 billion in damage. Over the next few years, the legislature enacted a family leave law, overhauled the no-fault motor vehicle insurance law, enacted the Hawaii Public Procurement Code, and created the Kaho'olawe Island Reserve Commission. And the legislature moved its operations across the street to the State Office Tower and Hemeter Building as the Capitol underwent renovations for several years.
Our next honoree is the Honorable Randy Iwase. Senator Iwase was a member of the Senate from 1991 to 2000. During his tenure, he served as the Majority Whip and Assistant Majority Floor Leader. He also served as Chair of the Planning, Land, and Water Use Management Committee and as Co-Chair of the Water, Land, and Hawaiian Affairs Committee. The Honorable Carol Fukunaga. Senator Fukunaga was a member of the House of Representatives from 1979 to 1982 and 1987 to 1992, and a member of the Senate from 1993 to 2012. During her tenure, she served as the Majority Whip. She also served as chair of the Leadership Committee on Legislative Management and chair of the Communications and Public Utilities, Economic Development and Taxation, and Media, Arts, Science, and Technology Committees, as well as co-chair of the Ways and Means Committee. The Honorable Brian Cano. Senator Cano was a member of the Senate from 1993 to 2006. During his tenure, he served as chair of the Agriculture, Labor and Employment, and Judiciary Committees, and as co-chair of the Human Resources and Commerce and Consumer Protection Committees.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the matter? If not, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. For House concurrent number 2. All those in favor? Opposed?
The Honorable Matt Matsunaga.
Concurrent resolution number 2 is passed.
Senator Matsunaga was a member of the Senate from 1993 to 2002. During his tenure, he served as the Majority Policy Leader and Chair of the Science, Technology, and Economic Development Committee, and as co-chair of the Judiciary Committee.
This resolution is offered by you, Mr. Speaker, Vice Speaker Mizuno, and Representative Saiki.
Thank you very much. Representative Saiki.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of House Concurrent Resolution number 3.
Thank you very much. Representative Johansson.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
The Honorable
Thank
Joe
you very much.
Tanaka.
Any discussion on this measure? Resolution number 2 is not. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Senator Tanaka was a member of the Senate
House
from
concurrent
1993 to
resolution
2000.
Is adopted.
During his tenure,
Mr.
he
Persa,
served as the Assistant
are there
Majority
any
Leader
other resolutions
and as
for
Chair
action?
of the Tourism and
There are
Recreation.
no further resolutions for action. May all others be referred to print.
Thank you very much. So ordered. So members, I guess with your indulgence, have a few remarks to make as we proceed to the new session. My fellow members and guests, aloha, and welcome to the 2014 regular session of the Hawaii State Legislature. Thank you all for being here today. The first thing I would like to do is thank all of the House members for their efforts in the recently completed special session. As we all know, it was one of the most controversial and divisive sessions in recent memory. Not only for us, but for the entire community. But no matter what you stand on the issue, I want to thank you for your participation. Because, as we all know, in a democracy, the discussion and the debates are just as important, if not more so, than the resulting decision. And so now, it's time to put all that behind us and to move forward. More importantly, we need to help our people heal in a spirit of aloha that has always guided this community. How do we do that? To me, the best way is to lead by example, to come together as one house, to help our citizens provide a better life for themselves and their children. That is the way we've always done it. That's the aloha way. Fortunately, we embark on this session in one of the best fiscal positions in a long time. With Hawaii's economy growing, construction stable, tourism strong, and unemployment down, there is every reason for hope and optimism. While the past few years have placed us in survival mode, this year we have a real chance to create opportunities. We have an opportunity to honor our kupuna and help our families with their long-term care. We have an opportunity to help the homeless and to mend our social safety net that has been torn and tattered in recent years. We have an opportunity to repair our schools and help our teachers provide the best education for our keiki, from early learning to higher education. And speaking of education, we have an opportunity to improve literacy in Hawaii by funding a statewide program to support efforts of the Governor's Council for Literacy. We have an opportunity to improve the infrastructure that our business needs to grow and prosper, thereby creating more jobs for our people. We have an opportunity to not only strengthen our economy, but to do it in a way that protects our fragile environment, whether it's from damaging climate change or invasive species. We don't have to choose one or the other. A strong economy allows us to sustain both. We need not only to spend wisely on special services, but to prudently provide for our long-term financial obligations, our rainy day fund. But to do all of that, we also need something that we haven't talked about a lot recently, and that is vision. Vision with a capital V. As leaders, our job is to both create laws to take care of today's challenges and to anticipate long-term issues for tomorrow. However, vision is not just a feel-good concept. It's easy to talk about vision. It is much harder to turn vision into reality. It's easy to talk about health care reform, but much harder to realize the goal when faced with the real life difficulties of implementation and human failures. Just as it was difficult to pass Hawaii's Prepaid Health Care Act back in 1974, a law that has benefited the majority of Hawaii's working families since its passage. That measure was passed primarily because of the vision of its authors and because of their willingness to fight for that vision. Here today, I see many familiar faces, some with whom I've worked side by side. In the 1978 Constitutional Convention, a watershed event that created, among its many achievements, the need for a balanced state budget. Because of the nature of what we were doing, vision was not just an afterthought, but a guiding principle of all that we thought about and did. I see many other familiar faces, dare say, a bit younger, with whom I've worked to solve some of the most pressing issues facing us today. In them, I see a new generation of leaders, young, eager, and full of energy. To them, I want to issue this personal challenge, not only for this session, but for their entire public service careers. Be a visionary in a way that many of your predecessors here today were. Be careful and conservative when it comes to the public welfare and finances. But where your own careers are concerned, take a chance. Take up the challenges facing you and all of us. Be bold and look beyond your own well-being and today's needs. For example, contrary to what many believe, our laws, our tax laws, exist to make Hawaii a better place to live and work. We all have a vested interest in its upkeep and well-being. We all have an obligation to the whole. The distribution of this obligation can be confusing, even during the best of times. Long-term social trends constantly change the landscape, and we need to make frequent adjustments to our tax laws. It's not an easy task, but a necessary one. It's necessary if we want to be fair, and it's necessary if we want to keep Hawaii a place with aloha and a place we are proud of to call home. In looking at our budget, yes, be fiscally prudent. But let's also look at how we can do it better. That makes more sense for us today. The transient accommodation tax on tourism help us provide for the main driver of our economic engine. In this strong economy, should we not be thinking about a greater partnership with our counties? Who provide much of the services that directly support tourism. They are the ones who maintain our roads and parks and provide the law enforcement officers and first responders who serve our businesses, our visitors, as well as our kamaina. Therefore, let's look at removing the cap on the counties, on the county share of the TNT. It's time. I believe the gesture is not only long overdue, but should be viewed as a better long-term care investment in our counties and in our number one industry. And speaking of taxes, Hawaii's personal income tax is currently one of the highest in the nation. The law that allowed that to happen was passed several years ago during a severe budget shortfall, but will sunset in 2015. And it should be allowed to do so. Because that's good for Hawaii's hardworking families. In both of these instances, the returns on insurance on noble, robust economy will be worth the investment at a cost, however, that is substantial for the state. So at the same time, let's look at the number of other sources of revenues that better reflect the world and the circumstances we live in today. Let's look at the changes that would more sensibly spread the burden among those who benefit from living and working in this island. Let's look at working with the State Attorney General to better enforce existing state requirements for those who do business, a great deal of business in the state. I'm referring to those who earn millions through the internet, who are not located in Hawaii, but profit from the sales generated by our people. Technology has revolutionized the way companies do business throughout the world. And that's amazing and wonderful. But every day they compete toe-to-toe with local companies on a playing field that's clearly tilted in their favor. It's time we level the playing field. We should also join other states who have banded together to look at this issue, as well as consult with our congressional delegation on actions being considered at the federal level. Our tax laws also make allowances for seniors whose incomes are usually fixed and very limited. That is the right thing to do for most of them. But very wealthy seniors who draw over $100,000 in pensions per person are also the beneficiaries of those tax considerations. Let's fix that anomaly so that everyone pays their fair share, no matter where the incomes come from. Recently, there have been much news about other states legalizing the use of marijuana. While I am not suggesting we go that route, Hawaii does permit the limited cultivation and use of marijuana for medical purposes. In spite of that, there are no dispensaries or places where you can legally buy cannabis, even with a prescription. I think we need to fix that gap in the law before we talk about anything else. In addition to the House-Senate majority package, these are a few issues I hope we will discuss in this session. I look to all of you for much more and the opportunity to create a new vision for Hawaii. We have a lot of work before us. To tackle it successful, we will need to work together, to hold to our beliefs, but be willing to compromise when necessary for the greater good. We will need to bring our communities together and engage and allow them to take ownership in the legislative process, because that is the only way we will achieve anything meaningful and lasting. So, members, let's all roll up our sleeves and get to it. I thank you for your commitment and look forward to working with you. mahalo, and aloha. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. We're on item number 6, announcements. Members out there,
Speaker.
Recess. Oh, I'm sorry. In my eagerness to move on, I forgot a very important person who will also speak to you. And I want to have the minority leader, Johansson, to rise and speak. And I recognize and I appreciate the majority leader and the minority members. So please rise and speak.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be brief and take the hint. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished guests, fellow colleagues, and people of the great state of Hawaii. A special thank you to the many former legislators who have joined us today. Welcome back to the House. Welcome home. Your presence here today is as special as the mark that each of you left on the institution, as well as the imprint that you've left on Hawaii. Indeed, your legacy of service has guided us here today and helped contribute to the foundation upon which many of us stand. It is that legacy that continues to compel us to serve. We wear many hats in the legislature and have many titles, but above all else, we are public servants and here to serve. That's what the public expects of us, and that is what we should expect of ourselves. All of you returning members share something in common, irrespective of your philosophical differences, your backgrounds, your present circumstances. You all labored to make Hawaii a better place and to improve the lives of all people. Just as you faced, and that's a link, an intrinsic link, that we all share. Just as you faced in your time of service, we still face significant issues today. These include citizen participation in democracy and government, a high cost of living, educational opportunities, and the health of our people. Hawaii still has the lowest voter turnout in the nation. We're all familiar with the cynicism that permeates many of our neighbors, that cynicism leading to apathy and ultimately a lack of engagement in the democratic process. The call of service requires us to do more, and responsibility compels us to answer. Accordingly, the Minority Caucus seeks to empower the electorate directly through the initiative and the referendum process. Financial experts generally always rank us as consistently having the highest cost of living in America. We know far too many people who are living in poverty or barely making ends meet. We need only look around to see the increasing problems of homelessness. The call of service requires us to do more, and responsibility, again, compels us to answer. We advocate lowering the cost of living by linking income tax brackets to the Consumer Price Index to provide some measure of tax relief to those at the margins of each bracket as they see their dollar buying less while still having to pay the same level of taxes with essentially less money. Public education in Hawaii is one of our largest governmental expenditures, and it has societal consequences for generations to come. Again, the call of service requires us to do more, and responsibility compels us to answer. We propose greater educational opportunity by ensuring that all 5-year-olds attend kindergarten. The healthcare system, we all know, can be a complex web of overlapping pieces that are difficult for patients and our neighbors to navigate and to effectively receive healthcare from. The call of service requires us to do more, and again, responsibility compels us to answer. We support formally establishing by law the Hawaii Wraparound Program to effectively care for at-risk youth. And while this is not an exhaustive list of the many ideas that we'll be debating this year, it certainly is a sampling of some of our core priorities. We believe that the 2014 legislative session affords us a unique opportunity to help engage the people of Hawaii on the important issues of the day that really affect them. By pressing for the goals of increasing participation in government, lowering the cost of living, strengthening education, and protecting people, we can improve the quality of life for all who live in Hawaii. To our esteemed former colleagues, you all labored to make Hawaii a better place and to improve the lives of all of our people. And all of us who have that responsibility today must continue to take up that mantle of service. Mahalo and best wishes for a productive 2014 legislative session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minority Leader. Thank you very much. Right, members, is there any announcements, Representative Cabanillo?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is a very special day to one of my former colleagues as a nurse who have served in this chamber. But also, Mr. Speaker, she had contributed a lot to this House, and today is her special day. Today is her birthday. So I would like to invite you, Mr. Speaker, my colleagues, and former members of the House of Representatives to please extend a happy birthday to former Representative Marilyn Lee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, happy birthday. Any further announcements, members?
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Representative Aquino.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a reminder for majority members, there will be bill signing for the majority package today in my office, room 419, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further announcements, members? If not, Representative Cabanillo.
Mr. Speaker, I move this House stand adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Representative Fukumoto.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded that we adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed say no. House is adjourned until 12 noon. Members, if we can all assemble in the well, and those honored guests also, so we can take a group picture of everybody. So members, everybody assemble in the well.